Well, hi everybody, and welcome to another edition of Sports Talk. I'm Jimmy Allinder, and my guest this evening is the Supervisor of Athletics for East Brunswick High School, Frank Noppenberger, who will be giving us an overview of the just concluded spring season. Frank, thanks very much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure. And before we go any further, let's just thank Channel 8 and you and Phil certainly for volunteering all your time and everything you guys do for the athletes at East Brunswick. I say this every year, but I'm really sincere, and if I didn't say it, I'd be remiss. The kids appreciate it, the parents appreciate it, and certainly the coaches do. Taping the games, and it's a treasure they'll have for the rest of their life. And so, thank you.
You're quite welcome. Quite a year it has been, 1998-99. Just a couple of months ago, we did a show where we just talked about the girls' state championship in basketball. And now we have another state championship in boys volleyball. We'll talk a little bit about that, but as we always do, we'll go through the list of the sports and have you just talk about some of the athletes, the coaches, and the accomplishments of the athletes themselves. Okay. So, well, we will begin with a relatively new sport, girls lacrosse, and the coach is Jen Ragg, W-R-A-G-G. Any relation to the Milltown Rag, I wonder? Who knows?
I'm not sure.
Okay. But a little bit of a tough going. Is this their first year? Or?
Correct. This is our first year of girls lacrosse. In the beginning, I was somewhat worried about getting a qualified coach. Little did I know that Coach Reg, when she was in college, played at Slippery Rock and had an outstanding background. And she was an assistant field hockey coach for us. And Coach Acab also had a background in lacrosse. She was the head coach at Rumson Fairhaven last year. So we got good coaches in there right away to start a program that started out with about 50 girls coming out for the team. I was somewhat pleasantly surprised on the success we had. Now, we only won 2 games, but we're Middlesex County champs. We beat Old Ridge twice. It was their first year, too. But we were competitive in a lot of games, and we saw improvement from one game to the next. As a matter of fact, the coach from Hopewell and the coach from Westfield commented to me about how much we've improved and how far advanced we are for a first-year program. And that credit goes to the coaches and the kids. They worked hard. There was a lot of hours out there, 2-hour, 2.5-hour practice, because in the beginning, they have to learn to throw and catch. It's brand new to them. Some of them have never played lacrosse before, except maybe in phys ed class. But there were athletes out there, and they picked up the game. And I think next year we'll be better than 2 and whatever. We're in a league next year, which will make it a little more competitive. But I think before long, our girls, traditionally girls at East Brunswick, have strong athletic programs. We'll be as good as anyone around. We had a couple of award winners at our last banquet, and Shannon Miller, who's only a sophomore, she was our MVP. Brett Eilhart, she's an underclassman, she was our most improved player. So we've got a lot of youth out there. As a matter of fact, we didn't have any seniors. So the future looks really bright, and girls lacrosse is a very exciting sport. It's unique that there's no boundaries. Wherever the ball goes, they play it, unless it's near something that could be a danger, then the referee blows the whistle. And it's constant motion. And I was real happy that the results of the team this year, and I thank the girls and the coaches for their efforts.
Do you also see the sport growing in other schools? Are there other schools that are thinking about, for instance, can there possibly be a GMC league of sorts?
Well, certainly it's going to happen in boys lacrosse, which we'll get to in a minute, in a year or so. And women's lacrosse, I see it happening. I see South Brunswick and North Brunswick looking to do it right away, and that brings us up to 4 clubs. A school like a Bishop Bar could do that. Piscataway can do that. So the bigger schools, before you know it, I think they'll all be doing it.
And you say
it's a great sport.
And you say bigger schools, and that is a key, because it is the larger group schools that can handle these multiple sports. In some smaller schools, that's not possible because you only have so many athletes.
And it's got to do with tradition.
Yeah.
If it's a brand new sport starting at your school, yes, you need the numbers. For instance, Summit was the overall state champion this year in women's lacrosse, and that they're a Group 2 school. So it's tradition, and we have a good tradition, a rich tradition of women's sports. So I think we're going to be all right.
Okay, so you did talk about boys lacrosse. Coach is Carrie Wigner? Wigner, okay. And they finished with a 5-11 record, and I've noticed that boys lacrosse particularly has really taken off in this state. There are scholarships that are offered to some of the, the major universities. It's a hotbed in the Long Island and in the Baltimore area, from what I understand, but certainly it's starting to find its way into Central Jersey.
Slowly. Edison has had a team for a lot of years, so has Old Bridge. Just recently, South Brunswick.
St. Joe's?
St. Joe's has had it for a while.
Yeah.
Old Bridge, us, and South Brunswick just started it recently, and we're very competitive with one another. We're also very competitive with Edison. I see it happening, and as a conference school, conference sport in the next year or so. They're asking us how much does it cost. They're asking us about coaches, playing facilities. And that's an issue. You have to have the facilities, and you like to have them close by. And sometimes that may interfere with a softball or baseball field. But boys lacrosse is an exciting sport. It's a very physical sport. Sometimes I think they allow too much to go by. I mean, a guy's running down the field hitting another kid with a stick. It just doesn't seem right, but it happens. And then when you get a kid out there like McCluskey, who's from football, you remember him, who can hit.
Yes, he can.
And it is a contact sport.
Right.
But there's never a problem with fighting.
Okay.
The kids get hit, and they take it just like in football, and there's very few, if any, cards. It's a contact sport, and it's a great filler for a lot of kids, and I'm real happy that we've had it this year. We had, like you said, we had 5 wins. I think a couple games we didn't play to our potential. I think some games we played a schedule that was a little bit above our head this year, and the better teams we played at the beginning of the year, and that was indicative of our record. You could see how it progressed. But I'm happy with the kids' attitude. Coach Wigner's a real strong individual that's going to make us a championship club. He's committed to the program. He's hardworking. He's got good roots. He comes from Bridgewater, where his father's the athletic director. So he has lacrosse in his background, and I think we'll be okay in the future. It's going to take us a couple more years. It's the skills. As good as we are with soccer, because our kids grow up dribbling and passing, we need to do that with lacrosse. So the Blackhawks, who's in town, who's a good group, they've got to continue to expand. Recreation certainly supporting them, and if we get some girls involved, it'll certainly help our program. I'd like to just mention that Keith Roman was our most valuable player this year. David Oliver was our coach's award, and Jason Lynch was our most improved athlete. That's not taking anything away from the other kids, but they are the award winners at our recent banquet. Okay,
good. And that takes care of lacrosse for this year. The next sport we have on the list is baseball, which is obviously well established by a veteran coach, Mr. Tom Hockenjost. The boys finished with a 12-7 record, and had another fine season.
They certainly did, and they had a couple outstanding individuals. Brian Cosentino, we'll talk about him in a minute. Okay. But baseball, when it gets warm, Jim, like it is today, it's 94 outside, high school baseball's over. I think high school baseball starts too early. We're playing when it's cold and 34 degrees out and the arms aren't loose and the hitting isn't where it should be. Then when it gets warm, the season's over. That's just a little sidebar there.
But let me interrupt you. What's the remedy for something like that? Starting later?
Oh, I believe
and ending later?
I believe they should start later.
Okay.
Well, finish in June.
Isn't graduation like next week?
Yeah.
So what do we do here?
You can't play after graduation. The parochial schools do. I mean, I don't think it. I think sometimes we just rush in the spring to get the season started and get it over with.
Gotcha.
I mean, when the weather's nice, there's nothing like being out at a baseball field or a ball field, as Babe Ruth calls it, and watch baseball. It's when it gets nice, it's already over. And I understand it's difficult coaching spring sports. Graduation, prom, a lot of other things are on their mind, and it's difficult. But we had a very good season. We were led by Ryan Cosentino, who led the team in batting. He batted .422 this year. I think that's what you did in high school, wasn't it? Or 522? Well,
probably 520. No, go ahead. Continue what you're saying. That's quite a record.
He's the first since a kid named Kenny Wainzak, to lead the team 2 years in a row, and he was drafted.
And he went to Rutgers, did he not? Kenny?
I think he went down south somewhere. Okay. He played minor league ball a couple of years ago, but Ryan was the first one to do that. I think Matt Zukas had a good year for us at first base. I think he only had one error. He batted well over 300 and had a lot of clutch hits. So we had a real nice club. We didn't win as many as we wanted to. We thought we should have gone to the finals or the semis, at least, of the GMC tournament. Once you get to the semis, anything can happen.
That's true. And
we lost a heartbreaker to Bishop Bar over there. But it was no fault of the kids giving their best.
And interesting about Ryan is, as good an athlete as he is, he will be attending Hofstra next year to play football, or is baseball in the works?
No, football scholarship, there's no doubt about it, but I think baseball, you'll be still reading about him playing baseball. I think he's got a quick bat, I think he's got a good arm, he's a lefty, he's athletic, he can read the ball as good as anyone off the bat. Hawk thinks he's the best center fielder we've ever had, and that's saying
quite a
something.
Statement.
Underclassmen that contributed a lot was Steve Petersack,
the golfer, baseball player.
who played shortstop and pitched. It may have caught up with him a little this year. I don't know. He may have gotten tired. And he's coming back next year, so that's not bad, having a shortstop, starting pitcher coming back. And, of course, your catcher, Johnny Mullane, who probably had about 4 homers this year, coming back. So I think we'll be just as good next year. We won't have that outstanding player like Ryan was this year, Ryan Cosentino. As a matter of fact, I think he was intentionally walked 5 out of his last 9 times at bat. Rather than pitch to him, they just gave him the base. And well, that's a strategy on the other coach's side, so maybe it worked out. But I was happy for Coach Hawk and the way the kids played this year.
Right, and East Brunswick can always be counting on having some players come up that we can't even talk about right now, but I look at the rec leagues and things of that nature, and you always have a lot of good players coming up. Yeah,
that complex is always has baseball going on down there, and the coaches do a good job. Yeah. They do a good job of feeding.
Okay, let's look at the spring track program, boys and girls. Boys coached by Don Mandy, finished with a 4-3 record. That's a dual meet record. And the girls coached by Brian Merrigan finished with a 2-4 record.
A little bit disappointing for both coaches.
Okay.
I know personally I spoke to them and they weren't happy with the results. A couple more wins and a couple better performances at the big meets would have made their season a little more enjoyable. But they both said that the kids worked very hard. They were dedicated. The women's team, coached by Brian, they're young. They're real young. And they got some good young players, athletes, like Jen Kazmarek. She was an MVP of spring track. She's only a junior. So the future looks bright, and I know we sit here every year and say that, but I think next year and the years to come you'll see the East Brunswick and girls track back to where they used to be. Michelle Wilson did a real good job in the weights for us, and she's coming back. Boys track, you're going to miss a Barry Kahn, you're going to miss a Dan Winter because they were just outstanding. Alex Kaufman. These are all kids that were all division, all conference, and did very well in the individual meets and the conference meets. But when you have a Brian Donovan who's coming back, and he was the Jimmy J Award winner this year, and that goes to the person who's the best outstanding track person, and that's donated by Coach McAvoy and Coach Ty. And then you have Kevin O'Reilly coming back. You have some good underclassmen, and that's what you need, because you need them to be leaders out there. And hopefully we're going to turn that around next year.
Any difficulty with numbers right now?
No, numbers are way up. There was a concern, and maybe some people believe that the records are down in women's and boys lacrosse, men's lacrosse, because of lacrosse and volleyball taking away athletes. That may be. They may have gotten a hit. I'm not sure. But the coaches will go out there and recruit the kids just like the volleyball and the lacrosse coaches recruit it. So I think before long we'll be contending for conference honors again.
Okay. The golf team, coached by Bo Henning. it seems like you never have a problem coming up with good quality golfers, and of course this year was no exception. The team finishing 14-5, and we talked about Peter Zach already, but other players as well?
Well, let's go with the team first.
Sure.
Second in the conference, third in the division. They just missed winning the conference title again, squeaking in like as they did last year, just by a couple strokes.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing in the state tournament. We could have been sectional champs in golf in the state, but we just, the end, we just didn't hit well.
People don't realize how difficult that is. I mean,
There's
you
a lot-
only pick 2 teams out of a section, right?
Right,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of pressure on these kids. You don't believe it, but they've got to make a putt. It's not something that they're used to, playing with a lot of pressure all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But pressure, Stevie Petersack, as a sophomore, he was the conference champion individual.
Mm-hmm.
And this year as a junior, it was the same thing. He's a pretty good golfer,
Mm-hmm.
pretty good baseball player, and that's one of the sports that the state allows you to do too. So he had a real good year individually, and the team had a real good year, and Coach Henning is just an outstanding coach. When you go out on the golf course at a match, you'll see a lot of the coaches are there. There's a lot of buddies going on, a lot of handshaking. Bose is a true coach. He can improve the kids' stroke by a couple points or a couple strokes each round, because he really works with them and he can study them and he helps them out. He's
Mm-hmm.
truly a coach. He's always taking them to the driving range, and we're working on short game or long game.
Mm-hmm.
So we were all happy with their results.
Okay.
We knew we had a tough battle ahead of us.
All right. Let's look at softball. The softball program has had good years. It's had bad years. Not necessarily bad years, but
I was going to correct
subpars.
you on that.
Yeah, the expectations have been a little higher, and then they haven't realized them. But 12-9 is. I'll tell you what. That sport has taken off so much in the county and the state. You have year-round players almost.
Well, as we talked to off the camera many times, Jim, there's a lot of all-year-round players in every sport, and that's what it's coming to, and that's an argument that'll go on forever. Is that better for the kid, or is
Right.
it better to have him do 3 sports?
Mm-hmm.
But that's a different discussion we could have. Softball, a lot of excitement. They provide a lot of excitement. How many one-run games they had, extra inning games that they just won, and they did lose one. It was I thought they'd escape all year losing an extra inning game. They won at their last at bat with their 2 outs a couple times. They had a very good year. It was Kevin Brady's first year,
Mm-hmm.
and Shira Bush, who was a former player, came back, assisted us. Allie Lowenstein also assisted us.
Mm-hmm.
So we had some tradition going there with the formers playing, and Brady did a real good job, very enthusiastic with the girls. He said we had 9 losses.
12-9,
Okay, one of them was the Hunterdon Central
state champion.
state champs. One of them was the Bishop Bar.
Mm-hmm.
3 were to Edison,
Mhm.
and 3 were to Stevens, and all 4 of them were rated in the top 10, 20 in the state.
Mm-hmm.
So our losses were quality. We're not satisfied with that.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying. It's just that we played everyone tough this year. Next year will be just as good. I think we'll be better this year. Next year.
Mm-hmm.
Lauren Genovese had a great year pitching for us this year. And I just think that her coming back with another year we're going to be that much better. I think Angie Lopez had a real good year for us. Amy Tanchik in the outfield had a real good year for us. And like I said, Lauren Genovese is just a great pitcher for us.
Softball is a sport where the pitching really becomes the focus, because they, after all, go almost every game. They may go every game, as
Yeah.
a matter of fact.
Like I know Alicia Cruz plays all year round. I know Shira Bush plays all year
Mhm.
round. And I know Lauren, who's a great athlete. She's a member of the basketball team. She does it all year round with the pitching. So next year that's going to be the sport to watch next year, Jim.
Okay. Well, another sport that we watched this year and was highly successful, as it usually is, was the boys' tennis team, coached by forever Bill Pellegrino.
Yeah,
14-5 record this year.
Yep. We were division co-champs. We were second in the conference. We just lacked 1 or 2 players to put us over that hump to be conference champs. We were out of the conference title by 1 point. Pell got the most out of them. They were hard-working kids. He really enjoyed working with them. I don't know how athletic or how many of those were true tennis players. A true tennis player is like a Robbie Chess who plays, or Courtney Iseldike who plays it every day, all the time, all year round to improve. But these kids were pretty good. We were led by Mike Miller, who had a good year. Greg Family had a good year. Anand had a good year. Mike Bronstein, Adam Leffler, Greg Chin, and Dan Rosenbaum, they were all division players. Now, I know you're going to say, if we're all division, how come we didn't win everything? Well, North Brunswick was pretty good this year. Stevens was pretty good. So we tied Stevens for the division championship, yet Stevens won the conference championship. And we had a good schedule again with the West Windsors and Montgomery, and Pell insists that we do that. We're pretty good in tennis. We'll continue to be pretty good in tennis. And thank God the Board of Ed supports tennis because, you know, our facility down there is pretty nice. And if you ever go down there, you'll see it.
Okay. Well, the last sport we're going to talk about is boys volleyball. And I'll tell you what, this is the one thing that I regret not having gone to an East Brunswick St. Joe's of Metuchen volleyball game. They played 3 times this year?
Well,
3 or 4 times.
Actually, they played 5, Jim.
5. Can you recount these,
we won,
these games?
We won the first 2.
Okay.
One was regular season, one was a tournament.
Right.
They won the regular season. Then they won the tournament. They won the East Brunswick tournament, which didn't sit well with our guys. So now we're 2-2 going into the state tournament. And I happen to be on the seating committee for that. And it was before the cutoff that we lost the second time to them. So you look at their record before the cutoff, we were 2-1. So we got the #1 seed in the state. They got the #2 seed in the state. The state seeding followed all the way to the end, where we met St. Joe's at Bridgewater for the finals at 2 o'clock on a Saturday. And it was the first game took 55 minutes. Each team could have won. They had many opportunities, but it was a very exciting match. Many people said the most exciting they've ever seen. We won the first game. We lost the second because we wanted to tantalize them a little bit. And then we won the third game, and the kids really came through at the end. Volleyball is a great sport. I've been telling you that. Coach Arnauer and Locke did a great job. But when you get a kid like a Matt Strapko who's never played volleyball until 4 years ago, and he's the player of the year in the state, either one or all are true. Great coaching, or great athlete, great work habits by the kid and the coach. But to go that far in 5 or 6 years, because we didn't have a team 5, 6 years ago, remember. And then you had a kid like a Jeff Delonzo who will be all-state. We had Joe Zanetti who would be an all-state server. We just had great teamwork out there. Dan Kartzman had a real good game for us. And of course, Brad King, who was a great swimmer for us, or our scholar athlete, he could be all-state. Scott moved him in position. Last year he was all-state. He went to a different position this year. We don't know if he will be, but he's that good. And next year, are we going to be as good? We could be. We have a Ryan Walsh coming back. And we have a Mike Ressler coming back. And Scott and TJ will find a kid that can do the setting, and I think we'll be just as good next year.
Very quickly, Matt Strapko, Player of the Year. Where's he going to school?
Matt has been offered scholarships in volleyball. He's thinking about those, but I really think he's going to the college in New Jersey.
Well, great choice.
Well, it's a very good school. He's an excellent student. And the major, which I don't remember what he is, that's best for him down there. So he's going what's best for him, which is good for him.
Well, that takes care of our sports, but we do have just a few minutes, and I'd just like to ask you a couple of questions. I know the athletic banquet was held on June 3rd. Could you tell me about some of the more significant awards?
Well, before the awards, I'd like to just thank everyone who came. We had 620 people, which is, think about that, 620 people. Some of those are obviously parents, athletes, coaches, and there's around 20 people that are just East Brunswick fans that have to come out. The Tommy Lyons, the Mr. Morrisons, the Mrs. Smalley, Mrs. King. They just come out because they enjoy high school, East Brunswick High School athletics. Well, we mentioned that Brad was our scholar athlete. Our women's scholar athlete was Stacy Wang. Stacy's second in the class. She's going to Princeton. Brad will be going to Rutgers. Our Big E Who would be your Big E, Jim?
My Big E?
Big E is the most outstanding athlete at East Brunswick.
Cosentino?
Cosentino, very good. And for the female, and this was a real, let's battle this one out.
Well, I'm thinking girls basketball
You
here.
think girls basketball, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you two choices,
Go ahead.
O'Neill, Kohler.
O'Neill.
Kohler got it because
Okay.
she did the three sports, but Megan, who's going to Columbia, got the Groover Scholarship, which is quite an honor.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt Strapko got the Leon Floric Award. So we had Robin Douglas got the most not the most outstanding, but the girl who's given the most to East Brunswick Athletics, the female side,
And
Robin Douglas.
You have such a tradition of athletics at East Brunswick. It's wonderful to see these types of awards that are given out. I know there's probably a lot of emotion that's involved.
There was a lot this year because the Matthew Black Award was given by one of the first recipients, his sister, Casey, who teaches with us. And the year she won it, Tom Ruggia received it. He was there also. And they're getting married on the 23rd or 4th of July. So she gave the award, and she was up there crying. Lynn Adams, our cheerleading coach, she presented an award to Robin Douglas, and they've been neighbors for years, so she was up there tearing. She did a great job.
That's great.
But there was a lot of emotion, and there were a lot of people happy leaving that night. We don't give out a lot of awards compared to some schools, and I think that's what makes it that much more exciting.
Special. Yeah. About a minute left, very quickly. I know you're very active with the Rules Committee, the Policy Committee for the state. Just quickly, anything strike you as being significant as we look forward to next year?
Nothing for next year, but will be voted on and discussed next year. Obviously, if you read in the paper about the parochial schools up in North Jersey, they're going to have their own division. There's going to be a parochial school in the conference, and then there's going to be a public school. So they're separating, so all the parochials will play together. Letter winners. If you're a letter winner and you transfer to a school, you have to sit out the 60 days. It used to be if you're a letter winner. Now the state has determined that if you play in 30%, I believe it is, of the games, you're considered a letter winner and you will have to sit. And that helps deter the recruiting. That's about it, but that's down the road and it really won't affect us. This year coming up, we got the playoffs again. We have that extra 10th game to make exciting in football.
Should be fun.
Soccer, I think, is going to be real good. Girls volleyball, boys cross country. It'll be an exciting fall, and I hope Channel 8 is there, and I hope all the people come out and watch us. We have plenty of schedules we'll give them. We even have a packet of directions. I know I get heat about our directions all the time.
Well, Frank, we're running out of time. I apologize, and I always appreciate you being on the show. So that'll wrap up the season for 1998-99. Thank you very much, Frank Noppenberger. This is Jimmy Allinder for Sports Talk. Thanks for being with us.